I mean, there are a lot of things that I love about this book, but honestly, it was the female protagonist assembling an army of lesbians to say fuck you to the patriarchy that really made me go, damn, I love this book. What's up, book nerds? I'm Lucky's Universe, and in this week's video, I'm going to be talking about the book that I just finished reading, which is Dark and Deep is Red by Anna Marie McLemore. And because I'm a little bit pressed for time, a lot of things to do today, I thought I'd also bring you along in a little, instead of a get ready with me, it's more of a get unready with me. It's nighttime, or getting to nighttime at the moment, so I'm gonna run you through my little nighttime skincare routine, I guess. And I've also got to take a shower, all the while talking you through the amazingness that is this book. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, first gotta take off my glasses. Oh, now I'm effectively blind. I literally can't even see the camera barely, but we're gonna work with it. Oh, who is she? Who is that? No glasses, no fringe. I'm like an entirely different person. I went out with my brother and his girlfriend today because it was my brother's birthday earlier this week. So I have like a full face of makeup on. I did have lipstick on, but I usually take that off like as soon as I get home. So I've still got like the eyeshadow and everything on that. So you will know, for those of you who wear makeup, is that a bitch has got a double cleanse. So that's what I'm gonna do. And so basically double cleansing is when you use an oil-based cleanser to break up the makeup on your face, and then you wash that off and put on a water-based cleanser, and that like gets all the shit out of your pores, and that just makes sure that your face is like entirely clean. And I'm someone who wears makeup quite a lot, so like double cleansing is kind of a lifesaver for me. So what I'm using at the moment is, it's really dirty. I'm kind of embarrassed because it's got like my makeup-y hands on it, but basically the Garnier Skin Active Micellar Water. Yeah, I love this. I've been using this all the time. I actually am going to change it though, because for a while I just finished it. I was using the Ordinary Squalene Cleanser, which is more like it's kind of like a gel. It has the consistency of moisturizer, and you pop that on your face and that breaks up your makeup. And I just found this to be so good. I know it's like a relatively basic cleanser, like there are better cleansers out there, but it really gets all of my makeup off in one go, which is like so weird. Like with the micellar water, I tend to have to go in a couple times to really break up the makeup. And also because I don't use cotton pads or cotton rounds with micellar water, just because I don't like to contribute to waste in the environment. So I just pour the liquid into my hands, pop it on my face. I feel like I lose a lot of it. A lot of it goes down the drain. Whereas if I'm using something like the Squalene Cleanser, which is more like a moisturizer, I don't lose any of the product as I'm rubbing it into my hands, if that makes sense. But because the Squalene Cleanser from The Ordinary is like supposed to be kind of basic, I've been looking at a lot of balms. And there's one that I found, cannot recall the name of it, but it was mentioned on Skincare by Hiram's channel. And if most of you will probably know who he is, he's like a god in the skincare world. I only listen to what he tells me, and he recommended this balm. So I'm going to probably get that next and try it out and see how it goes. But wow, that was a ramble about skincare. So for now, I'm using the Garnier Micellar Water Skin Active. Just gonna pour it into my hands and rub it on my face as my oil-based cleanser while I tell you about this book that I read. So Deep and Dark is Red is a YA fantasy romance which is inspired by Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale The Red Shoes, which I was immediately excited about that because The Red Shoes, when I was a kid, my grandmother got me the whole like set of Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales, and The Red Shoes was always my favorite. So it follows three characters who are existing along two different timelines. So we have Lala, who is Romani, and she is hiding in this village from countries and governments who have basically made her existence illegal. And then we have Emil and Rosella, who exist in the present, and they are Romani descendants, teenagers, and they fight every day to like distance themselves as much as possible from their culture in order to be accepted and liked in their town, which is pretty fucked up when you think about it, but sadly realistic. And this book covers topic of race, identity, sexuality, gender in what I really think is a beautiful, intricate, and just really enlightening way. Alright, okay, so I've washed that off my face. Now I'm going to go in with my water-based cleanser, which is the Cerave Hydrating Cleanser. This is, I feel like every internet personality only ever uses this, but honestly it is, it's really good. It works really well with my skin. Also, it's like affordable, but my problem is that in Australia, they only sell this brand at this place called Chemist Warehouse, which is a pharmacy chain, and there's not one anywhere near where I live. And so I have to travel to like this very specific place that's like 30-40 minutes away just to get this one cleanser. But you know, it's actually kind of worth it. And I always buy it in bulk so I don't have to make as many trips. But yeah, I'm gonna put that on my face, my wet face, and that's gonna be my water-based cleanser. So basically the plot of Dark and Deepest Red is that in the present with Emile and Rosella, in this town every year there's this magical occurrence that they call the Glimmer, and it's basically like for a week every year a sort of magic enchantment falls over the town and random things will happen. So one year the Glimmer caused all these elderly men to like start talking to crows, and then the crows would also talk back, and that was that for that year. And then other years it made daughters and mothers who used to fight all the time suddenly grow really close and have a really close friendship. And then sometimes it makes people like more brave and more bold, so that, you know, like people would be unafraid to go up and tell their crushes that they like them, or just like other weird magic shit. Like one year like wolves came into the town and just became people's pets, and then after a week they left when the spell was broken. That's sort of what the Glimmer is. It's not fully explained. That's the whole part of this author writes a lot of magic realism, and part of magic realism is not fully explaining the magic in order to make it seem more normal. So you don't really have a full grasp or understanding. You just know that once a year, this Glimmer comes and weird shit happens. So Rosella, who comes from a family of shoemakers, realizes that as part of that year's Glimmer, anyone who owns a pair of her family's shoes, the shoes just pop up randomly, because usually people treat the shoes as like expensive items. They pack them carefully in boxes and they're all away. But this week during the Glimmer, everyone's shoes that they've packed away starts popping up. But Rosella doesn't have any shoes. Specifically red shoes. It's the red shoes that people have that are appearing everywhere. And Rosella, who, like I said before, is Romani and tries to distance herself from her culture in order to avoid judgment by her friends and by the town, realizes that she's gonna be the only girl this week that doesn't have a pair of red shoes. So she's like, shit, I gotta get some, I gotta fit in. So she finds these scraps of red shoes that used to belong to her grandparents. So her grandfather made a pair of shoes for this dude. So this dude ordered a pair of shoes for his daughter, and the grandfather made him red shoes, and then the dude says, no, I wanted white shoes, these are disgusting. And he's like, you're gonna make me a pair of white shoes and I'll take these red shoes as like collateral damage. And the grandfather's like, you know what, fuck you, and like cuts up the shoes. And Rosella was so shocked because she witnessed this as a child, and she was so shocked to see her grandfather cut up and destroy something that he had spent so much of his time on. And so she saved the scraps but never did anything with them. So now in the present, she takes those scraps out, she sews herself a pair of shoes, she puts them on, and that's when shit gets real. Okay, so once Rosella puts the shoes on, she suddenly discovers that they are attached to her feet, they are not coming off, and then they also have some sort of enchantment on them that make her uncontrollably dance. Which, you know, she'd be like, yeah, fine, whatever, except they take her out of the house and they put her in dangerous situations. Like she danced across the middle of the road and nearly got hit by a car, like that sort of thing. So she's like, I gotta take these shoes off, but she literally can't. Nothing she tries works. And so she resigns herself to the fact that the Glimmer only lasts a week, so she's just gotta last the week, and then once the Glimmer fades away and everything goes back to normal, the shoes will come off, right? At least that's what she's hoping. All right, so face is cleansed. You're seeing my bare face for the first time. Freaky, I know. Actually, no, let's not call it freaky. I know I don't have the best quality of skin. It's a combination of a lot of different factors. It's something that I'm working on, but I think we should normalize not having perfect skin, because like 1% of the population has genetically good skin. The rest of us actually have to try. So anyway, so while this whole thing is happening with Rosella, we're also switching to the point of view of Emil, who during the glimmer is getting like these weird flashbacks of some points in history. Like he knows it's related to his family history, but like Rosella, he is trying to distance himself from his culture and from his family. So he specifically informed his parents that he didn't want to know anything about their history, about their family, and he didn't want to like have any part in their culture in order to like protect himself from the town. He and Rosella actually used to be friends when they were kids because they were the only two Romani children in the town. But as they got older, like through middle school, they sort of drifted apart, and they describe it as a way, you know, that girls and boys usually drift apart when it gets to middle school because it stops being friends and then it starts having questions of like, do you like each other, that sort of thing, and that's why they sort of drifted apart. But he's really into science, and he's got like this whole like science lab in his shed. It's really cool when you read it. And he has the biggest crush on Rosella, and they accidentally bump into each other again. And because of the glimmer, or they think because of the glimmer, they're experiencing this weird attraction to each other. But like I said, at the same time, Emil is also getting all these weird flashbacks about someone who he thinks is part of his family, someone who he was related to a really long time ago. He thinks it's related to some sort of tragedy that has to do with his family. Okay, before we get to the next part. So, skin is cleansed, and now we're doing treatments or serums, because this is, I finally learned the order that I'm supposed to do my skincare in. But the treatment that we're using today is the ordinary Niacinamide 10% Zinc 1% serum. This has been really good for my skin, actually. Like, weirdly good. It's just an ice. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's an ice cream truck playing in the background. Helpful hint, never put the dropper onto your skin. I know it's what all those Instagram models do, but it collects all like the dirt and bacteria that's on your skin and it just puts it back onto your face. So you squirt it into your hands and then you pat it in. Am I part of the beauty community now? Am I a beauty guru? Can I be a booty guru? A booty guru? Except I don't have a booty. Dang it. Okay, so while Emil's having these weird flashbacks about his family, so we're basically alternating between Emil, Rosella, and then our third character, Lala, who's in 1500s France, who we know to be Emil's ancestor. So Lala, who goes by Lavinia because she's trying to pass as like a white person in this French village, she's living with her aunt, and they dye silk, and there's also this boy named Alistair who weirdly just appeared when Lala was a child, and her aunt took him in because he had like some talents that helped with her work. And so Lala and Alistair kind of grew up together. And I can't really talk too much about Alistair because there's something that gets revealed about him that's kind of a big part of the story, but also I don't want to give it away, so I'm not going to talk too much about Alistair. But what you need to know is that Lala and Alistair are in sort of a relationship. It's something that's it's complicated on Facebook. They experience attraction and then they sort of go back and forth because Alistair is not Romani, and Lala wants to avoid suspicion in the town because she's passing, right? No one thinks that she's Romani. They think that she's like the illegitimate child of an Italian nobleman or something like that. That's why they tolerate her, but she's worried that if suspicion ever does fall on her, then it's also going to fall on Alistair because of his association with her. So she tries to keep him at an arm's length, and it causes a lot of rifts in their relationship. All right, treatment done. Now we go to moisturizer. Today's moisturizer is the Adaptogen Deep Moisture Cream by Youth to the People. This has been really good, but OMG, hella expensive. Although I'm not too fussed about forking out a little bit more money on things like serums and moisturizers, things that actually stay on your face. Whereas when it comes to cleansers, I don't want to pay too much because you literally just wash the cleanser off. It's money down the drain, literally. So I'm not too fussed about spending a bit more money on an expensive moisturizer. And also this one's really good. It's really good for my skin. It doesn't leave like a greasy layer over it. It just kind of sits really nicely on my skin. It's super hydrating. Love it. Highly recommend. Okay, so in 1500s France, we're with Lala, and this is kind of where the plot of Lala's story starts happening, because there's this weird plague that is somehow swept over the town, a kind of dancing plague. Suddenly, all these women of the town start uncontrollably dancing. And not just like regular dancing, like crazy, wild dancing, and they don't stop for rest or for food or for water. And eventually, these women just dance themselves to death. And obviously this freaks the shit out of Lala, because she's like, oh my gosh, people are gonna think this is like witchcraft or some shit, and who are they gonna blame? Us. And that's about as far into the plot as I'm going to go, because I don't want to give spoilers. I really want people to read this book. Okay, face is done. Yay! Alright, now I want to talk about the pros and the cons of this book, starting with the pros. I mean, there are a lot of things that I love about this book, but honestly, it was the female protagonist assembling an army of lesbians to say fuck you to the patriarchy that really made me go, damn, I love this book. I liked that it was just short and sweet. Like, it's only about 300 pages, which is relatively short in YA fantasy. The chapters were unusually short, which is something that I don't regularly like. I don't like really long chapters, but I still kind of like chapters to be around maybe 10 book pages long, because I feel like otherwise you don't get enough time, especially if you're switching point of views, you don't get enough time to connect with each character and learn enough about each character. But even though the chapters in Dark and Deepest Red were really short, I honestly felt deeply connected to each of the 3 characters that were in there. It was weird. And I mean, I found the characters in this situation relatable in a sense. I mean, not in the way that as a white person, I've never felt like racially oppressed by anyone, but as a member of the LGBTQ+ community, I can definitely relate to feeling like you have to be someone you're not in order to be accepted by the rest of the world, and to think that you have to hide who you are in order to make people like you. This book also does cover the topics of being queer in the like early 1500s, in the medieval period, hence the army of lesbians. And there were just a lot of points in there that could translate across a range of different subjects, and that's why it really hit home for me. In terms of cons, I can't really say too many cons because I genuinely loved this book. But I think for me, I'm gonna say magic realism as a con. For me, magic realism is a pro, but I know for a lot of people, it would definitely be a con. So for those of you who don't know, magic realism is a specific genre of fantasy where the magic systems in the book aren't explained at all in order to make that magic seem more normal. So in this particular world, in the present with Emile and Rosella, they have this thing called the glimmer that comes every year, and magical things happen, and no one thinks that's weird. No one thinks that that is strange. It's just a thing that happens. Like, magic shit happens and people accept it. No one questions it. No one even calls it magic. It's an enchantment. It's literally just like a thing that happens. That makes no sense, but it makes all the sense to me. However, if you're someone who likes plots and magic systems to be completely explained, or just gone into detail a little bit more for the sake of world building, magic realism is probably not your thing. I kind of think of it, if you didn't like The Night Circus, probably wouldn't like magic realism. If you didn't like The Starless Sea, probably don't like magic realism. Both of those are by Erin Morgenstern. Both of them happen to be both of my top 10 favorite books. So yeah, if you don't like those ones, magic realism might not be for you, so for that reason you might not like this book. And whenever I read reviews of this author's books, because this author seems to mainly deal with magic realism concepts, most of the people who didn't like the book or gave it like only 1 or 2 stars didn't like it because of the magic realism aspect, because it wasn't fully explained, because it speaks very metaphorically, very lyrically, like, there's no straight answers in these books. And that's not a bad thing. Like, it's just a preference choice. I think a lot of people seem to think that people will say like, oh, you don't like magic realism, you just don't understand it, you're just not on our level. But honestly, I think it's just like a different type of writing and it's not for everyone. People like what they like. So yeah, that's my one thing going into this book. If you do not like magic realism, maybe this author won't be for you. I honestly don't know why people aren't talking more about this author. So Anna Marie McLemore is a queer Latinx author who writes a lot of magic realism and a lot of romance. I first stumbled upon this author's work when I listened to one of their audiobooks called Wild Beauty, which I talked about a bit in a previous video. I'll link that up here if you want to hear me talk about it. It's basically 5 girls who are cursed to remain in this garden, and anyone who they love disappears, gets taken by the garden. The 5 girls realize that they're all in love with the same girl, and that's when shit hits the fan. But I really liked that. The concept was super interesting. So I went ahead and found some other books by that author, mainly When the Moon Was Ours, which is another YA fantasy romance. And When the Moon Was Ours, one of my all-time favorite books. Now it's God tier. It's literally God tier. Dark and Deepest Red didn't top When the Moon Was Ours, but it's close. It is close. So generally, this has been such a successful read for me. I feel so happy right now that I've finished it. Like, I feel satisfied and fulfilled with that feeling that you get after reading a really good book. And yeah, I hope more people start reading this author's work because they really deserve all the hype that they can get. So that brings us to the end of my little mini book review / get unready with me about Dark and Deepest Red. I hope you enjoyed my little mini skincare routine, and now I get to go to bed, which is great. If you don't already follow me on TikTok, go check that out. I post some pretty cool stuff on there, and I will also leave a link to my Goodreads and my Twitter account down below if you want to keep up with what I'm reading. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you later.